Hi, and welcome to another Flax and Fiber Friday. This is part 2 of my upholstering the chair with my punch needle design. So I took off the back of the chair and traced that out on some paper I found, some packing paper I had that was all wrinkled. So I spritzed it with water and smoothed it out and traced this on it, and then I went ahead and took my piece here, which ended up being 13 inches by 13 inches instead of 12 by 12. So that has altered my measurements here. What's happening is when I folded this back and centered the design, it goes from a point here down to about an inch wide here, or not quite an inch. So from here to here, it's like a long pointy thing. So I don't know if I'm going to attempt punching or hooking along the edges of what I have here. I don't know if that's possible. I contemplated putting a strip of fabric, but nothing I had looked nice enough, and then I'd have to do sort of quilt batting and stuff it in the back. So that's an issue I have to resolve in my head, a problem. I have a strip here and a strip there that will be a design, and I think that I in my head, because I don't want to dye anything and I don't want to go out and buy more wool. I have some more of the peachy pink, so I'll use that. But then I think I'll just do circles similar to the flowers, just along the edge. I would prefer to put green in there, but I'm out of green wool. So that's another problem solving, doing what I have, or doing what I can with what I have. On this, I also, from my trace design, I stepped in a 3/4 of an inch all the way around and traced that out, because I want to leave enough room for my band. So like I explained before, when I'm done with the design and adding on, I'll probably have take about that much, depending on how much space I actually have there when I'm finished, and tack all that down and then weave a band to glue on top of that. I like upholstery nails, but they tend to be expensive, and a lot of times they're frustrating for me because they bend when you try to nail them in, and it's just, yeah, I'm avoiding that stress. So I figured I will just glue a band. I've got the colors picked out of my threads, and I want to get started on that, but I can't. So I have to be patient, because chances are I would weave a band I think would be maybe a 1/2 inch if this grows. And then it would be too big or it'd be too little, and then I would be really frustrated. So I have to be patient. I will come back and show you the next step of the process and what I decide to do with this. And I perhaps will have my new frame with that needly tacky fabric, or those pokey things, the pokey wires to hook the fabric onto. I don't know. But this has been part 1 of part 2. So when I come back, I will have some answers to my problems, hopefully. So, okay, I will see you in a bit. Alright, so I'm back, and perhaps problems solved, fingers crossed. I went ahead and tucked under all the edges of the piece and basted that down so that I had it all neat and set up. And I opted for, instead of doing individual pieces, I am going to do it as a whole piece. The part of my issue, or my plan, was to see if I could do individual blocks. I think I mentioned this. And if I could, then I would alter the frame that I have for hooking and for punching to accommodate the sort of needly mesh things on the outside so I could make a bigger area to work in. So I did that, and I'll show you in a minute. So that led me to think I should just get one piece of burlap, stitch this directly onto the burlap, and before I did that I went ahead and traced out the piece that goes on the back of the chair, and this is a little wonky, or soft, because I washed it, this burlap. And I mean, it's a fun color, but the reason why I got it was $3 a yard, and I think 60 inches wide. So I had enough to obviously do this. So you can see from the back, I'm almost done, and I experimented with rug hooking on the edge there. So I'm just about done. I have this much left to do, and you can see it's smooth, but I might not have stretched it enough. So I am just sort of using this traced out area as a guideline, and I will measure it against, hold it up against my paper template once I get all that punched or hooked in there. So it's just a guideline to start with. I'm sure that I might be able to take it another row out. So I'm going to show you how I'm doing this. See if I can zoom in. And okay, about right in there. So I am just catching, gotta get my old lady glasses on. I am just folding it close together, and then I'm kind of just catching one or two of the weaves of the burlap, the turquoise burlap, because I don't want a pucker or a fold when I lay it flat. And so I am just going along that, and I probably don't have any scissors handy. Maybe I do. Nope. So when I get to the end, I'm just thinking ahead. So let's just continue with that. Again, all of this is just an experiment, which is what I do a lot of, just to see if I'm going to like something and to see if an idea works. I think this is going to work out fine for my purposes. It might not work out for everybody, but you know, you don't have to necessarily buy every tool to make something work. That's kind of been my motto through most of my life, because I can't afford tools just to try something out. I assume, again, I am not alone in that. So what I did, and I'll show you on the frame that I made, built with wood scraps. I took some old carders that I had that I really don't use because they were too big for me. Let me grab some scissors. Oh, they're there. And thought long and hard about whether or not I should cut the needle things off. The needle things I know are not the same as the ones you buy that used to be considered carpet tacking. Zoom back out. There we go. Get that in place. It's kind of weird when you're working with the camera. It's like when I think I'm moving something one way, it's actually the other way. So that is all smoothed out and ready to go. And so here's, grab my frame here. So if you had seen one of my other videos, you knew that I had a flap here, and then my embroidery hoop could fit in there. And that's how I was doing it, but I was limited because I think it was like a 6-inch embroidery hoop. So the largest I could do, and that was really tight, was the 4 inches. So I added wood, like a piece here and a piece there that I screwed on, and then piece here and there, I made sure that right in here that was far deep enough for me to do the needle punching. I need to, if it works out and I like how it's working out, obviously I don't have room to put my hands up in here on these sides. So I'm going to saw that off after I put another support in the back and the front so it doesn't start wobbling. So I put it on. I think these are, like I said, I think they're way too long, but I think it's going to serve my purposes. And if not, then eventually maybe I will go ahead and invest in the actual real stuff. But I didn't want to invest in it and then have a problem. So here I am. I'm going to put that on there. Where I started was over here. And I'm going to pull that over a little bit further so I can get my hand in there. Something that occurred to me in my trying to figure out problem solving with all this is the fact that I punch needled it, right? So you only have, my loops are only so long and so deep. And if I started needle punching from the back on this, I was afraid that they were not going to be long enough because of the fact that I have 1, 2, 3 layers of burlap between these loops and down here to start. So I figured the best bet would be to do rug hooking first all the way around the edge, and so I could bring the loops up to the same height and maybe do 2 rows all the way around, and then I can flip it over, and I will also have the lines from the yarn underneath to follow to do the punching from the other side. So that's the problem solving on that, and so hopefully that works. So it's not as tight as I would like, so again I think my needles need to be shorter and different than come on combs, but it was working fine the first time I did when I was experimenting and did the rug hooking first. And then getting it to hook on this side is a little difficult because there's the 3 layers of burlap and then the yarn. Another thing I wanted to mention that I kept forgetting to say, this one corner that I used monk's cloth on, I don't know, did I mention it? It ended up being a little bit bigger. So it's, I don't know, it's a different feel and everything. But I can fix that when I get down there and maybe do a couple of rows of the hooking. So I got my hook over here, make sure I'm in the place. Let's see, this is where I'm going to be doing it. So I noticed that there was enough tension for me to do this. And so I am just going to go in and pull those loops just a little bit higher because this burlap is a little loose and it wants to pull the loops that I previously did. So it's going to be a little bit tedious, but that is the plan. And so the next time I am back with this, I should be done doing all the way around the edges and then be needle punching from the other side. So the frame seems to be working out well enough, which again tells me that I might want to go ahead and invest. But that'll be later when I can afford it. So there we go. That's the start, and I'm pretty excited. So I want to get to weaving the band to make it match. So I'm in a hurry. So when I come back, we'll be at the next step. Alright, so I am back. Here we have, okay, so here's the back of the chair. It's one of those old ones, so it's burlap and this cotton batting. You can see on the back where I went ahead and punched it. And so far it feels like a good fit. I went ahead and trimmed up the edges. I didn't necessarily like the golden yellow, but that's what I had. That was cotton. And I ran out of this wool. So I went ahead and did the brown border, which is also cotton. So I was just working with what I had. And so far so good. And now I am going to center it. And I have this electric staple gun, and I tested it out on the chair to make sure that it actually works. Because I don't know about you if you've used staple guns, and so often they don't go all the way in. And then you got to come back and hammer them, or they get bent, and it's frustrating. So this seems to be working good. So I'm making sure I get feel my corners. You can see there's like a groove. It sets down in under that. So that's where I'm looking at putting on trim afterwards. So I'm just making sure it feels like it's all aligned. And then I've done some upholstery in my life, so I understand the concepts. And this might be just a little long, but I think we'll be good. So one of the concepts is to get the center on one side and then pull it to do the other side so that you can kind of stretch it. This doesn't have to be quite as tight as like some upholstery, I think. And I'm trying to get kind of the same width. I want it a little bit tight, but I'm not going to be too specific with it because it's not a fabric that's going to show creases and buckles and things like that because it's so thick with the yarn. So, and there's a lot of inconsistencies I'm not real happy with, but you know what? I am happy enough. And I think I might, after I get some of it, if it feels like it's too loose, I might go ahead and stuff some stuffing in there if it feels like it's going to be too loose. I thought the piece was going to be too small, and it looks like it's not too small, because I want at least, I don't know, like a quarter or half an inch trim. But my measurements I think are pretty accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and keep stapling that. I'll go ahead and do that, I guess maybe fast forward. think that is good enough. I would have liked it a little tighter, but it's the back of a chair, so I think it looks fine. I'm going to go ahead and staple more all the way down and around so that when I put down the trim, um, it's not going to be raised up too much. So I have a piece of ankle weaving here. So yeah, if I get that down a little bit, if I staple that down more and then make the piece, and oh yeah, that'll go around the corners just fine. Good. And then I will glue it down, probably with just tacky glue to cover all that up. So hopefully I only eyeballed, so hopefully I got that close enough. I have my colors picked out. Oh, and they're different thicknesses, so I'm never too worried about that. So I've got some brown crochet cotton, probably what, number 10 or something, and that matches my original wool pretty good. And then I've got, I don't know what this is, maybe 6, and that brings out the dragonfly blue. And then I had some embroidery floss and some pearl cotton in colors that match that really well. So I was doing really good. I've got, I think that's number 3, I don't know, but a good red that'll bring that out. And then a bunch of embroidery floss that brings out that good green. So I got to decide on a pattern, but yay, it's time for me to do the weaving to finish it up. But I think I am pretty happy with that. Yeah, this is a chair that'll be in the progress. And I didn't want to sand it down or finish it because I kind of like old beat up things. So that also goes well with less than perfect needle punching or rug hooking. So there we go. When I come back, I will have the ankle band done, and we will get going on that. Alright, so I went ahead and I wove up a strap, which I like. But my problem was I did not account for how much it shrinks when I weave it. So as you can see, so this is the end of that, and that's the end of that one. And rather than start a whole new band, I opted for just using a scrap of something else that I had, that I had made. And it's this one, which doesn't match at all, but it goes well enough. So I am going to cut off the ends of this and center it. This end will come up about right in here, and then I will have this piece that'll just be along the bottom, and that's closer to the floor, so I don't think anybody's even going to really notice. So I will go ahead and I will go ahead and fast forward through my gluing it down if my battery and my card work. Don't die on me. So, oh, and another thing I was super excited about that I didn't think about when I did it was this strap has the blue on the outside. So if it happens to be a little thinner than I need, this blue will show through, but you won't know it because the band itself has blue on the end. So I'm pretty happy with that little lucky sort of kismet happenstance. Okay, so I will deal with these pins, and go ahead and fast forward through gluing it. And I'm just going to use regular Aleene's tacky glue on it. That should work, I think. So I will be back fast forwarding. Okay, it is as done as it's going to be in terms of perfection. There's a few spots that'll go in and check, and maybe throw in some more glue once it dries. As you can see, I tuck those in, those little frayed ends, to make sure that they adhere to the glue, and kind of push them in with my fingernail so that it's a relatively smooth transition. Yeah, some of the curved spots, they did really well, but I'll throw some extra glue down in there. And other than this spot right here, I did pretty good on estimating exactly the width, and then making the band to fit that. So there we go. I'm super happy with it. It's been up for a few days and the cats have not discovered the back of it. So thanks for joining me.